Hey, hi Shreenath, can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. I hope I'm audible as well.
Yes, you are. Great to connect
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, yeah, very good evening, ma'am. After connecting after a really long time.
Yes, we have. I think
Yeah,
we're starting in another 4 minutes, but always happy to sort of discuss a little more before we are already
sure.
live in YouTube.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so thank you so much. Thanks so much for taking out the time. You had a class hectic day today?
yeah. So we are now in the week that is before the end term examinations. Couple of Then we have that Accenture form rolling around for placements,
I see.
and on top of it, international immersion. So all visas are sorted. So planning itinerary and stuff like that.
I see. I can only understand that maybe your days now are what, 12 hours, 14 hours long?
That's kind of normal.
Great. Mostly, I wanted our students to be a part of this. I wanted them to also take a leaf from your journey so far, given that you have attended our sessions and you have had a journey which was unique. I know your strengths around numbers, how
Mhm.
you kind of channelize that. So, would love to hear so many more the stories of this entire journey, and whoever are attending can ask us the questions.
Sure.
So far, I can see Anushka, Ibrahim, Nagesh. Let 7:30 hit. Shambhavi has joined also. Okay. All right. Good evening, Shambhavi. Good evening, all. Good evening, Anushka, Ibrahim, Nagesh, Shambhavi. Good evening to all of you. We still have 2 minutes to discuss. This is Srinath. Srinath has been, good evening, Ibrahim. Srinath has been my life student, Crack Verbals life student. He was learning with us. He has had a trajectory of growth, as I can see. And he scored a 655 on the GMAT.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
His quant and data skills were amazing, as I remember. The way he used to work. A lot of it was also because it was in your work, but still, you honed those skills and you went up to 655. You got an admit in IIMK. How's life at IIMK now? Let's start. It's already 7:30. I think we can start.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'd like to thank the attendees here. It's on Saturday or Sunday, perhaps. I'm forgetting the days per se. But so on Sunday evening, after such a hectic day, they all are joining. But having
Yes.
said that, I remember around 2 or 3 years back, same time I was giving my first mock for GMAT around this time frame when you asked us, we were at the mid of our course, and you suggested that you all should attempt a mock. So the mirror was put in front of us in the second week of September, I guess. So yes, so that grind, however, has turned around to be fruitful. So as you often say in crack verbal that uh, GMAT and college admit is just one milestone of the journey, and next set of milestones are as equally demanding. However, the breeze of uh, I would say first milestone brings in a set of comfort. As the saying goes, you taste achievement once, you want it once more. So that's the way it is.
Yes, I'd like to tell all of you. I also see a few more candidates here. Chayanika, I see Nandini, and I see Tuhin, and all of you, all Anushka, welcome to this meeting. I was just introducing Srinath, welcoming him to this discussion. Srinath is currently pursuing his MBA at IIMK. He was a student of Crack Verbal. I had been personally interacting with him on his quant and DI skills. And on quant and DI, number skills have been one of his fortes. So I was just welcoming him and talking to all of you. So wanted to thank him again. And now just wanted to, move on from this conversation to the next things. Like, let's talk a little bit about GMAT. Let's go back to that moment when you saw 655 on your screen, right? Did that make you feel like, wow, yes, this is a good score?
So,
Or you just felt like I could have done a little better? What was the feeling? Just let's go down the memory
yeah.
lane and go down there.
So that score before that 655 were three unsuccessful attempts, or I would say setting stones for that particular number. So I remember I started my preparation with the GMAT traditional version, wherein we had two sections that were compulsory, quant and verbal, and DI was an optional section. And I literally should say tanked miserably into the exam. And the reason was, despite of the natural grasp of numbers,
Yes.
GMAT requires consistent practice. And on top of it, there's this particular approach that over the set of uh, attempts was garnered was how to think different. If I put it in perspective, my first two attempts, the biggest learning was not to dwell directly onto solutions, but look out for possible alternatives, how you can navigate around. You know that you have a way to figure out a problem, but there are other options. You have to evaluate the benefit of it and choose the one in real exam that clicks faster, because time is the biggest asset specifically for GMAT focus edition. So first two editions were the traditional attempts, and that was in the year 2023. So after that, I literally on psychological front was a little set back, followed by some personal and professional setbacks. So I had to take a pause from the journey per se and focus more towards the career part, because GMAT is just one part of your application when you are applying to colleges. You need to show numbers per se professionally as well when you are going into an institute that accepts GMAT. So, and you are getting paid for the work that you're doing at your workplace. So you go ahead. However, the part that helped me was both stated by Devmitra ma'am and Arun sir was that GMAT is not like some black box that you learn about it and you will go through it. It's like a learning cycle. So once you get familiar with the skill, then I remember when I restarted my preparations in 2024 second half. So initial few mock attempts were, I would say, benchmark setting stones. But then that practice or approach that was developed in 2023 was initially just came in like an instinct. And that is something that I would suggest that if you start focusing on approaches rather than solutions, that instinct would develop. And that fear would also go away of exam day. So that happened. My attempt for this 655 was something like I booked it 1 week back only. Okay, I checked in my calendar for a company that do I have any appointment on that weekend? No. And I was having yes, no, yes, no. My dad said you better give it off and get it done. So that Sunday came in. I didn't read anything per se. Attempted the exam, and just by those instincts, thankfully, that were developed over previous attempts, the number came in. For a while, you get a sense of it when you give mocks at your place, but
Hmm.
then the number was better because I remember my mock that I attempted on that day that came around to be 615. So I was like, okay, that just is the threshold number required for colleges. I was like, okay, just to keep safe side as an option B, the colleges that accept a range between 595 to uh, 635, something like that. So I was like, okay, let's have some backup prepared per se. So that was my mindset.
Hmm.
So you just don't be empty-handed in year 2024. And yeah, that was the GMAT part per se. It was all about instincts and changing an approach altogether.
I see. I do have a few more questions. That was an interesting trajectory. I think you
Mm.
lowered your expectations a bit because you had that potential of 655, which finally got reflected. Between quant and DI, which do you think came was more enjoyable to solve, and what did you do about the other subject which you didn't really find like me, that kind?
So I remember in 2023 December, after when we I was preparing for my first attempt that was scheduled for first week of January.
Right.
So I was having a word with my coach with you that there's this new version of GMAT Focus Edition that's coming. It
Which is
has more of, yes, it has more weightage on the quantitative part. And that's where I became a bit biased because of I would say, personal preference of number crunching. So I was like, okay, I'll be able to perform better. But you said you focus on your fundamentals, and that reflected. So in quantitative, though I was good with problem solving, but data sufficiency is where I tanked miserably, and there was no pattern per se. So your inference was to prepare easy questions very well. Easy medium questions you should not lose on the traps, and hard at least you should able to guess to attempt or to not to attempt. By the grace of God, that set of preparation from the crack verbal, I would say, portal. Back then it was for traditional edition, but then we had the fair share of questions. Along with that, the OG materials, they are the Bible. So I only focused onto the data sufficiency parts so that I should come to a stage wherein I am able to narrow down what mistake I did when I fell into a trap. Or I should be able to back my answer that, okay, why I am saying that both statements are sufficient or neither of them is sufficient. There should not be either of a statement that we are going by the flow, कि ऐसे ही चल जाएगा. So that particular skill came in handy when DI section came because a fair share of questions are data sufficiency and quant is now total problem solving. So quant was a forte that you just sustain the gains, and DI, data sufficiency coupled with a little bit of practice for multi-source reasoning and data interpretation. So uh, that I would say that's wherein you get the hint of true MBA life, how to balance out the costs. This exam is something that I now reflect back after 6 months of journey, is preparing you up for true MBA experience to strategically rational out the cost benefit analysis. What strategies you pick, the choices you make, that's what GMAT is testing at preliminary level. So that's what helped me, and uh, that's how DI came in as an asset rather than a liability onto the journey.
okay, I'm going to hold on to that thought now because I would want to know, given that you've had a GMAT prep, a journey of GMAT prep, verbal and quant and data insights, what skills, maybe you can give a story or an instance where the GMAT prep actually made a difference today in IIMK, or and you foresee that difference being made after IIMK. Maybe you can just talk about one or two instances. Because we keep telling our students GMAT prepares you for life. Life skills are developed with this prep.
So I'll say I'll keep the weaknesses also a part of my journey. So verbal though was not my strong point, but I can assure you one thing specifically in this dynamics of large language model based assistants, AI tools that are available. Your way to comprehend large data, reading between the lines. This skill can only be achieved if you are good with reading comprehension. Uh, on top of it, you have to be very good with the critical reasoning. Why it is important is your 90% of your study here would be case-based study, and everyone can put the whole case booklet of 30 pages onto AI like Gemini or Perplexity. They can get generic answers. But
Hmm.
then faculties are also aware of that. And in such institutes, they put in numbers or statements that are in between lines that you have to be very cautious as you have to do with medium and hard level comprehensions. So if you just skim through them, you're lost. Your whole strategy is gone, and your answer would be generic, and faculty would be able to identify, okay, or rather case competitions. There's a thing you'll be put there in limelight that okay, it's a generic solution obtained from GPT. So how to develop perfect reasoning to make a choice is through the reading between lines aspect. And quant aspect comes in handy when exhibits are given. Exhibits are income statements, balance sheets of companies. They require you to calculate certain financial ratios. So that's where in percentages come in. advantages comes into picture. Your unitary methods, uh, unit economics. It's the, I would say, the hidden key for your success when you are speaking to an executive. So if you are very good with unit economics and you bind with other subjects that are taught in MBA, so unit economics and probabilistic approach, hypothesis testing that have borrows something from probability and permutations and combinations. So it's a part and parcel. So you get an elementary analysis on GMAT, and perhaps that preparation also prepares you for the lifestyle that you're going to see. We are in a safe cocoon. Once you join an MBA college, things would be demanding but also rewarding. So yeah, it's just I would say trailer of the big picture, MBA.
Are you saying that GMAT was easier? I mean, just wanted to validate. GMAT is easier than the life you have right now in terms of all that you're going through, right?
Yes, again, it's very subjective because either you can perceive, like if I were pursuing my MBA in year 2022, before all these toolkits were there with us, AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, so on and so forth, I could have said that it's a fairly easy ride. But now, in order to stand apart in the crowd,
Mm,
industry would be flooded with generic solutions. Why
true.
we are doing MBA per se is we have to stand out in crowd as the best business leader. So that comes when you have to comprehend every number, comprehend every paraphrase and every line through an analytical lens. So if you do that, then and only then you'll have a good uh, choice that would be made when you're there at MBA, submitting any report or participating in competitions that happen at national level.
Lovely. Makes sense, totally makes sense, because we also have been telling to our students that what you learn today is just a trailer, like you said. What you will experience once you get through this process is going to be a bigger picture, grander picture of what you are learning today. Has there been a moment, Srinath, where in the prep you felt like, I just want to give up, this is it? And how did you overcome from there?
So that phase only wherein I set a personal boundary, that number of 615, I was like, okay, it's in the safe range of 595 and 635.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, it was my, I would say, avoidance, psychological avoidance. And that's wherein your whole ecosystem plays a big role. You have to self motivate yourself. And thankfully, I have had a fair share of motivation from my parents. So they were like pushing the limits. They were like, you have that potential of the number that you were quoting earlier. You achieve that number. And even when the actual 655 came, my dad was like, okay, it would do the job, but still you have that gap to cover. And I believe you can cover that when you are there in the curriculum. So keep it as a feedback and ensure that you cover those skills when you are there at the campus. Um, so yes, mindsets, mind would be your biggest enemy in this journey. Or perhaps the longest syllabus is your psychology.
Wow.
So if you are able to crack it, because I this whole exam is designed, I would say, from payment interface all the way till the exam center. It
Mm,
is a test of psychology. You will have your credit cards failing when you are filling in the exam slot. On top of it, you'll have that urgency to book the slot. You will have to narrow down, okay, I am getting a slot after my round one deadline.
right.
The next slot is before the date where I feel I am confident. So, in between such psychological yes and no, you have to take a decision. So, your biggest syllabus is psychology. You have to cover it.
That's a very, very interesting point you meant that the biggest syllabus is psychology. Guys, are you guys listening to this point? GMAT has to do so much with mind than with just the actual context of what you're learning. If you're able to train your mind, the test will reflect that. Especially before a day before, a week before the test, Shrinath. I think even if somebody does really fairly well on the mocks, just a week before something goes wrong for many candidates, And that doesn't let them reflect the true potential that they have on the GMAT. Like they might be scoring really, really high on the GMAT. It feels like the questions were different. It feels like it was harder. I just blanked out. This happened, that happened. So, like what you said, it's a lot about the mind. Only 70%, 60% may be about the actual work. 40% is what the mind does to you during the test.
Yes, and I believe that was pretty evident when I gave my first attempt. So around that, external factors, particularly in professional front. So there was a big bombshell that was dropped into organization,
Mm.
and I cannot go into specifics per se, but then that had impact as in you were put on toes for 24 into 7. Anything could happen. You
Mm.
would be handed over papers, and with that mindset, when factors other than the exam come into picture, how you balance it. If I go in retrospect, if I would have handled it more maturely, that okay, I should be confident with the prep that I've done since September.
Mm.
That attempt could have been my last attempt, and I would have joined an year earlier. But as I was saying, psychology was a syllabus that I didn't cover at that time.
Wow. Wow. Many students I know here, they have such hectic work schedules. Today I was talking to a few of them. 10:30 a.m. in the morning, comes back 11:30 p.m. at night because of the travel. Somebody said 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. The kind of hectic schedule that itself challenges their brain. It's difficult to focus after that. Maybe they just have the weekends. Do you remember the instances? Like, I'm sure that your job was also quite demanding that point of time. You remember any moment during the weekend classes or your learning journey where you really felt like, okay, I can still do it? Or where the classes, in terms of classes, we were covering, syllabus as such, just like we're covering with all the candidates here. But anything special that you remember from the mock test days or something that really can help others also as an input?
So here's where I believe, and that's something that I now speak from product sense per se, is where your toolkit is your USP. I'm telling you it upfront. The way your preparation tool is designed of crack verbal, those minute achievements that you granular right or wrong of mini test series that are there, so that keeps up the pace of motivation. So what I used to do is I used to have my work hours close at 7 p.m. and then I used to have an connect with external stakeholders at 10 p.m. Between that time, I used to practice the weekly assignments that were rolled out onto the platform. And as you progress ahead, you see initially you get all questions wrong, followed by certain questions right, certain wrong, and then you have the solution put in place next to it, unlike the textbook. So though I'm a traditional reader, but still when you see a textbook and you have to do the manual labor of going back to the page, looking at the answer and coming back to the question, and labor is a cognitive load that is over an overhead onto your job. You just let it go and keep it aside. So that's wherein structured learning was helpful. You are through digital medium provided a pace, we little achievements. Where I remember when our in October when our session were concluding the theoretical session, you said by this time you have had covered around 600 questions of GMAT. And as we go back, okay, 10 questions now compiled to 600. Hmm.
Yes, it's always like I tell to our students also. If you do what you have to do every single day, when you look back, you will see you've come a long way a road of excellence. If you don't do what, it's just 10 questions, 15 questions, max 20. That's all you have to do. And you just look back 3 months down the lane, we have come so, quite far. Let's talk a bit about IIMK now. Yeah, I was so excited to know the peer collaboration is something everybody talks about. What about
Yeah.
competition? How is the competition?
Ah,
And how is the background? How is the diversity of the batch that you are in right now?
so PGPBL is, I would say, fairly fresh but pivotal idea of IIMK,
Hmm.
followed after ISB, IMA, and IMB.
Hmm.
So we are the sixth batch of cohort. 62 of us, all experienced candidates. I am into the uh, earlier candidate. I just crossed the 3 year mark at the date of application of round three of work experience. So I am into the younger segment in the crowd. But then, what is the benefit of being part of experience cohort
Hmm.
is you get to see perspectives. So we
True.
have candidate who has served for Merchant Navy. We have a candidate who has worked onto the design of Maruti Suzuki Desire. He was the person responsible for the new car design. And when these perspectives come into picture,
Hmm.
when we are having discussions. Unlike traditional learning, IIMs or perhaps business schools differ, wherein your coursework is more dependent on peer-to-peer interactions. You have to do a pre-read of cases that are provided. You have to read it beforehand coming to class, and the discussion is let open. Professor is not there to I would say do a theoretical part. It's Pareto. So to 20% theory they'll teach, 80% of the sessions would be peer-to-peer discussion. And in between those discussion, the lessons automatically develop. So wherein we divert from direction, professor put in the direction, and that feedback is the lesson that is learned. That is the theory, the part of the course. So these interactions, I would say, make us little bit experience into the domains that people come into. So when we will be sitting into corporate culture again after a year, we'll not be blank faced when someone talks about automobile industry or per se banking industry or pharmaceutical or defense per se, because we've garnered experience of and perspective of these individuals for a fair share of time. So you'll have confidence to dwell conversation, and that's very crucial to establish your relationship as an consultant, because mostly will be everyone would be seeking a career as a consultant post MBA or perhaps into other management role. Your understanding people is the fundamental aspect, so that's the biggest asset.
Okay, coming back to the core question I wanted to understand, competition. Is it quite difficult there in terms of you always want to stand ahead? Everybody thinks like that because it's a cohort or the batch of, as I would say, achievers. How is competition there? Does it really play a lot of, it does contribute to stress or it does contribute to growth? How's the competition scenario there?
Mm, Here's where or that's something I can personally suggest, and it's a very subjective take onto it. So when I joined, we were allotted a mentor. So one of my mentor, he is a partner at BCG. So he
Right,
suggested me one thing, that Shri, there will be hundreds of avenues to stand. You will be having fear of missing out. You will be like, I'll have to participate here, I have to participate there. What would eventually happen is you will lose out on direction, and on top of it, you will end up nowhere. So at the time of, uh, I would say, term zero,
right.
list down things that you want to achieve academically, co-curricular, professional, personal, per se from an MBA college, and
Mm,
stick to them.
mm,
One or two things here and there for recreation can happen, but stick to them. You will enjoy it. So that has helped me, and competition is there. Perhaps this is, I would say, trailer of the real corporate world. There's no denial to it. But again, what brings in the USP? It boils down to the GMAT prep. So everyone would have given GMAT, but if you are able to assimilate what this exam is wanting you to learn, so that would create a differentiation when you speak in a classroom. So all of your classmates would have cleared GMAT with flying colors of 705, 715. But
right.
if they have not assimilated it and they go the generic way,
Mm,
use computers or AI tools to just do the work for say of it, you will be left out in crowd.
mm,
Your assimilation or inferences from this exam would make you stand apart, and you competition would be just, I would say, part and parcel, very small piece of it. I mean, how I look at it is, though now we don't get to see wake up early in the morning, Speaking of IIM Kozhikode, it's the resort campus of India. You wake up in the morning, you see clouds are lined up across hostel. So either you can worry about, okay, I have a class at 9 a.m. Just relax a bit. Okay, this is the view.
Hmm.
And if I go into numbers, I'm paying 10,000 rupees a day to live in a five-star hotel for 1 year. So I'll enjoy every day that I'm staying here. It totally subjective on you.
Lovely, lovely. Um, Thank you so much. These are the points I really wanted others to also know that how's life at IIMK. Tell me something, Shrinath. Does the GMAT score actually matter after you are into a B school?
It does matter. I won't give uh, false hopes. I was doing some sort of freelancing just to gain some, I would say, working cap.
Hmm.
And that's wherein one of the clients, they just casually asked, okay, how about GMAT? So rather than me explaining to them about the abilities, with GMAT, they had a whole summary of my quantitative and comprehensive abilities. So certain companies, I'm not mentioning it because I'm still working with them, but it gives you a lever. You need not to explain 10 words about you. This exam will be your almanac of achievement.
Right.
So that does help. And in terms of application, I will still emphasize if you can improve on your GMAT score, it would be easier for you to drive your narrative
Hmm.
because I do understand in a normally distributed environment,
Hmm.
uh, specifically in country like India, we don't get to enjoy uh, a- aspects wherein we can drive impact. So when you're and we are counting, okay, I have two or three achievements down my whole life. So how I can create a narrative? That's when that GMAT score come into picture. However, if you already have a fairly diverse life beyond the numbers, and that's wherein it gets parceled into your whole application. So you have to balance out your lower GMAT number with impact that you have driven beyond the world of this examination. Because the committee who is interviewing you, they need to know what is unique that you bring to table when you are sitting in that cohort. Either
Right.
you are very good with analysis that's tested by GMAT, or you are a person who has a holistic view of world. So that is driven through your co-curricular achievements, professional impact. So that gives a story, okay, those score is less, but why? That is answered through your essays or co-curriculars. If they are listed correctly, they are able to convey the impact correctly. So you know, easier way is to focus on GMAT. But if you are not able to like achieve the golden number of 705 or 715, that's not an issue. Just rephrase and focus on what impact you drove across your whole life. You should be able to tell your life story to the person who is reviewing your application.
Thank you. That is a pointer for all of you who are here. The magic number seven, it used to be in the earlier scenario, 700, 710. Now that we have GMAT 705 standing for 98 or 98th percentile precisely, it's all about ensuring that your story also has got weight. Your story, letters of recommendation, achievements, what all you have achieved in life, how do you put it forward? That creates difference, not only just applying, but like Shana said, even after you are in the B school and you're looking forward to the next step in your life.
Yes.
Coming to
And adding on to that, so the how essays can literally drive the narrative other way around. Right? My score was fairly decent, not that great. But what I did is, my first essay was tell your life journey in certain words. So I opened it. Okay, I have the score. So I just phrased it in my own words. Then my life is nothing but sum of failures, and then dwell the narrative around that, and how each failure was building. You have to be unique. Everyone will be talking about I did this, I did that. If you bring in uniqueness, again, that comes as you do comprehensive reading through this preparation. And one suggestion I'll have. you have that white space in your application, be it ISB application or IIM query code application. That white space or words, you can use it to showcase your work. What I did is I had so much to tell to them. So what I did in last paragraph, and is anything that we need to know, a 250 word para, and let it short. And two words I added, my URL for portfolio and a short video essay that I prepared. So it was a YouTube unlisted essay. So that stood apart. So when we were having a discussion, so they literally played that video in front of me that, hey, that's an interesting take. And the conversation was around that video.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. That's a great input. At this point, I'd also like to tell the students who are seated here, if you have any kind of questions, place it in the Q&A box or here, like you're placed on the chat, and we will take it in a while. Srinath will be answering the questions after he has answered my questions. So I'd also wanted to know, what about the SIP, the pre-placement? What's happening in the placement scenario? What are recruiters, seniors speaking about, given the global volatility about MBA? What are you hearing from your seniors, the alumni networks, currently in the placement scenario?
So SIP is not in picture for 1 year program because we have fair share of corporate experience. So at least for IIMK, we only have placement. And there is an international immersion that will be followed by placement season starting in November. There is a lot of buzz around, and that again, it's very subjective way to look at it. Either you can discuss about the causes that are not in your control, or uh, just be prepared. Like I can also say that AI is about to replace consultants' job. AI is about to take product managers' job. Or I can go into the solution part that, okay, what is something that tool cannot do? And that's wherein our director, sir, during our inauguration said one thing that AI has answers, but human has questions. So the art of asking questions, if you are able to keep it alive, irrespective of what market changes happen, numbers, short-term numbers would be impacted, yes, but we are looking at a long-term career. So at the end of the day, 20 years down the line, when someone asks for a specialist in particular sector who has a business knowledge, you as an individual should be called in first. And that would be happen when you are inquisitive about business or various aspects of, um, I would say, real world. So yeah, the things that are in your control, you can control, but those which are external, I think that should occupy your head.
Yeah. So, how's the vibe like in terms of this placement thoughts? Are people nervous? Are they just chilled? It doesn't matter, real any which ways. It's IIMK brand, or we have got a GMAT score. Something like, what's the vibe like right now?
So it's not just across IMK, but across all 1 year programs. The biggest recruiters were the consulting firms, and they are going through economic reforms across management. So with that, all of these big recruiters are coming in less quantities. So that is a point of concern. But uh, what keeps your confidence alive is how you're keeping up with the skill set. So that's wherein your current way of approaching GMAT preparation will be coming in handy. That you will not be relaxing per se, even after your classes. Prepare for skills. I am right now learning vibe coding per se. That's a new thing that's happening. So just to use AI to show prototypes and I'm also learning how to understand market through AI tools, and there's this agentic AI implementation that is coming into picture. You have to learn, and learning should never stop. Um, Short-term careers, yes, I am the ISB. Your numbers would not be that lucrative, but long term, I'm telling you, as I interact with alumni, long-term numbers are totally driven on what you learn theoretically here and how you bind it to practical world.
So true.
I used to bitch a lot about financial analysis and accounting concepts that are taught here. But as I talk to alumni who are there at executive roles from IIM curriculum, they're like, these are your Bible when you are talking in board meetings, because shareholder will not be talking about what is the value I deliver. He'll be like, what are the numbers? So this fundamental will be crucial. No need to worry about market scenario. Just think you are here to learn primarily.
Right. That really, I hope others are able to catch up all the value with which whatever Srinath is giving, every single statement that he's making, largely you have value derived from it. Do sort of inculcate that in your practice, in your mindset, in your thought processes. Um, I will get back to a few of my questions in a while we can take their questions. Vandit had placed a Q&A that how did you manage your prep with your job? If yes,
Mm,
could you give us a few pointers? And I'm sure many of the candidates here, they have this job weekdays, especially weekends is fine. Saturday,
mm,
Sunday, they can afford. But on weekdays, as mentors, we tell them, if nothing else, take out 1 hour, 30 minutes of practice, 30 minutes of analysis. How did you manage your hectic work schedule? I remember you telling throughout the process that there was a gap between 7 to 10 and you used to
yeah.
prepare. That was consistently done throughout the week.
I'll be very practical. No, because I could have said an idealistic answer that yes, I am able to work on every week. There would be weeks that you have one-on-one conversation. Most of our fellow mates are facing a US-based company or Europe-based company, so they'll be having at least two one-on-ones with their stakeholders. So on those days, you don't get to practice per se using pen and paper. You can just revise through concepts like fundamentals, and that's what I used to do. Just go through concepts or error. There's this error log that we used to keep. I used to just go through, browse through, just skim through it. That okay, what was the error log up until now, and that I used to compensate either on the day wherein you are. We all can predict at least a week for our work that there would be days wherein we have a fair share of time.
Right.
So I would say 1 meal a day person. So I got my time in lunch breaks. So that's wherein I stole that time. Used to go into huddle room and study. And Saturday, Sunday before class, so that's wherein I used to cover the gaps that were there, because our curriculum practically is scheduled for everyday practice. So if you don't do it, it would get added up, and you are the only one who have to complete it. So
Okay.
that's how.
What is the maximum gap that has occurred between two non-prep days? Like between X and Y, when you did not prepare, what is the maximum gap that you have kept? Or you would
Mm,
suggest to the candidates, ki don't go beyond this many number of days of not preparing.
mm, 3 days, 3 days max. And preparing, I'm not saying pen and paper. Even if you are just going through content, if you find that okay, I'm not able to practice quant, go through reading comprehension, nitty-gritties, or that certain set of do read. One thing I'll suggest that would set you apart even for interviewers. If you don't get anything, at least for RC, just read anything. If you have access, Financial Times is a really good suggestion, and that covers for India. The
Mhm.
Ken has comprehensive articles, and I was a bookaholic, so I was following a book back when I was in Bengaluru. But yeah, mm, just don't leave the um, habit of reading long paragraphs that are not that, I would say, notification savvy or dopamine driving. That is crucial when we were sitting for 2.5 hour exam.
Anything to just keep floating and not really
Yes.
give up beyond 72 hours. Okay.
Mm,
I'll go to Anushka. Rajesh has asked, is it recommended to talk about failures too if we can spin the narratives that could be beneficial for the application, technically about application? Can they speak about failures?
So if you have a learning from that failure and you're not repeating it, That's a very good narrative because everyone will be boasting about their achievements. I am state level topper, or perhaps I am, and I have did this, I did that. Everyone is
Mm,
an achiever. We are in country of achievers. But the biggest achievement, and that's something that my colleague or senior used to tell in company, is
mm.
through failures. You will have one or two anchor points of your appreciation, but you get maximum learning when you fail. And perhaps if success were driving number, then we were not appearing for this particular course per se. It's the failure that is motivating us to come every day, attending lectures, and keeping our zeal alive to learn and question. Failures are important. Yeah,
And we have to represent them in the right way.
yes. And as a manager, uh, you all have a job, but as a manager, you have to manage failures. And there is no failure, no one will pay us to be part of their organization. So every day will be a failure. How you make failure to first attempt in learning is a parcel of our job.
Thank you so much. I hope, Anushka, you get your answer. Uh, it's okay to have failures, but you have to represent them in the right way and learn from them and represent that learning. Sahana has asked, are only academic achievements within quotes considered as achievements? I'm sure she's asking about applications.
So academics, I would say, is very generalist in countries like India and China. And I am speaking from broader perspective because most of you would be applying for global universities. India and China, whenever an evaluator sees the profile, they'll have a 999 narrative across every application,
Mm.
above 9 CGP in 10th, 12th, and undergraduation. What sets your narrative apart is how you create a story around that. So there would be application with GMAT 100 percentile, the golden numbers, but still that would not get selected. And there would be an application that created a narrative. That, okay, that's my take on life. Because if you were asking for numbers, then you are not becoming a manager, you are becoming an analyst. Uh, Company has a different role called analyst. That has a different career path. You can seek that. The people who are getting hired from an MBA college are those who are able to create a story from things that are not understood by common masses. So if you're able to sell your story, articulation, then numbers don't matter. How you sell it is important.
Thank you. I hope, Sahana, you have an understanding, distill the understanding from what Srinath has mentioned. So, not everything. What I understand, Srinath, is like it's not like we can put everything in a bundle. Academic achievements. It has to be a lot more with what else do you draw out of those academic achievements or things which are not even perceived as achievements.
Yes. And one suggestion I would do along with your prep, don't take it as a last minute activity. When you are feeling that you are getting, you I am not in mood of preparing today, start listing down each and every achievement that you have had since childhood. Ask your parents to send in those old photographs from albums. And your parents are the best persons who are keeping record of your achievements. So start from childhood. So that's what I did when I was preparing that video per se of my life. I asked my mom and dad to send in the pictures and preparing some narrative for. So they were when in those easy days, I used to just look at those photos and mark it in an STAR format, situation, task, action, result. Or you can also adapt an RAC, result, action, and context. So just keep an Excel of your achievements up until now. So how it would come handy is at last moment when you are submitting your application, once you have your score, you will not be thinking through it. Your essay would have a list of 56 to 60 things that you have done across life. Create a narrative. Now to you have GPT, you just put that Excel to GPT or Gemini. It would give a structure to the narrative, and you humanize your own words and create a story.
Thank you so much, Srinath. I'll move to the next question. There are so many questions coming up. I just hope we can cover all of them. Nagesh is asking, Well, that's a question which many candidates in the GMAT stage are bothered with. How did you develop the psychology needed for the data insight section, especially time management skills in data insights? This is because candidates do really struggle with time. 45 minutes for many is not sufficient, given they get two multi-source reasoning sets, given that they get so many graphs, TPAs, two-part analysis. All of that does affect their timing. If they're able to consume or utilize their thoughts on one MSR, दूसरा वाला छूट जाता है. The second
Yes.
one gets affected. So,
Yes.
what has been your strategy? What would you suggest, Nagesh?
So I would suggest MSR is the, I would say, very small portion of what you will be doing it for next set of MBA life. So how I was able to, again, after various failures, my trick was understand the scope of problem that is given in the initial and last lines. So you get to understand what is the scope rather than you going through three exhibits that are there. If you are attempting a hard question, you will get to see, okay, exhibit 1 and 2 would be sufficient to attempt that question. You'll save that time. And very first MSR, if you have liberty, and if it's of medium level, for me, it was a medium hard level MSR. I marked it for review and moved ahead. I had certain options and moved it. That saved my time. And thankfully, next set of questions were DS questions. So DS, after that maturity, you are very, I would say, DS is, you would say, time saving asset in this section of data insight. DS
Yes.
two-part analysis again borrows a time. DS and data interpretation, these are literally because you have the capability to filter out the data. So these will be your biggest assets for saving time. Utilize that on the saved question. I would suggest use all three of those review options in the MSR. So that MSR, because it's a weighted question, again, it's my assumption based on the algorithm. The MSR carries a huge weight onto your weighing of a DI score. So if you are able to see a medium and hard level question, just move ahead. That time you utilize at the end. So even if that question goes wrong, because it's now at the end of the curve, so your score will not be compromised. You will be in a win-win situation.
Good, thank you. I think so. What Shrinath is saying is about making sure that the ones where you take lesser time, like data sufficiency, table analysis, all of those are the questions where you go faster, save mental bandwidth, bookmark MSR if you don't connect with the MSR, and then just get back to the MSR and see out of three if you can get at least two of them correct. That's a win-win situation, right? Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you so
And
much.
most important thing, again, I'll emphasize even for RC as well,
Right.
and understand the scope of question. And that would be very important. We, because of our job nature, are very solution-oriented population in India. We have,
Hmm.
if we comprehend the context, that is the fundamental skill required for business leader. You have to understand the scope, and MSR will play on hard questions. You 4 or 5 exhibits are there. If you get the scope, and if you know that, okay, exhibit 1, 2, and 3 are sufficient, that would be your asset in analyzing that question rather than spending 8 minutes.
Absolutely. We'll go to the next question given by Shivdas, who he's asking, what is the what is the range of work experience of the candidates at IIMK? What kind of leadership qualities are the AdComs looking for?
So, if I speak of my batch, we have a range from 3 years experience all the way till 11 to 13 years of experience, and average experience is around 5.6 years. But this year forward, IMK has raised the eligibility criteria to 4 years of experience minimum, because now they want to position it as a competition against INABC. That's the core segment they're targeting. And having said that, what was the second question?
What kind of leadership qualities are the AdComs looking for?
Fundamentally, how you drive your narrative, and specifically for IIM interviews, they'll grind you. So how you perceive those interviews? They'll be grinding you. I was grinded onto aspects that are written onto the whole detailed application form. You have to be very thorough with each and every line that you're writing. I remember I wrote that I have read certain books. Right now, I'm reading The Goal by IIM Golkrat. I didn't know that's a very crucial book for MBA life. So out of nowhere, one of the panel members, so they asked, "Okay, so you've read the book about LIUM Golkrat. So who was the manager of the protagonist?" So you cannot just write for the sake of it, like, okay, there's this fashion that's coming. People would suggest, okay, you write, I love reading books and I love reading Murakami. That would be your biggest, I would say, knife. Like these books which have depth, they all are well-read professors. So they can ask you. So be very honest and adcoms look for your perseverance, narrative telling, and holistic picture, as I've said, how you convey your story.
Thank you. I hope, Shivdas, you get your answer. I am going to go to the next question. There are two questions asked by Chayanika. I think this question has already been answered. I'll just take the second part of it. Chayanika had asked, how can a candidate stand out beyond scores and academics, which you have already explained at various stages? The second part of the question is, what are the biggest application pitfalls to avoid? One is you have to be honest to what you're really planning to write should be something you actually practice. Maybe Shrinath can talk about the others.
Mm, Specifically, I'll be very relevant with current setup. You put a question, you put your resume, and AI can generate your whole essay right up front. But
Mhm.
that is the biggest pitfall. That would be a very generic language, a Redditish language. If I go into the specifics, these models are trained on Reddit and Wikipedia pages. So that language is very Redditish. So my suggestion is either you get someone to help you around with your essay writing or write it on your own. And that's wherein, rather than taking it as a last minute activity, when you are having free time, start creating narratives. And that's wherein I would suggest reading comes in handy. How to create narrative. One very easy book that I can recommend you all. There's a Days at Morisaki bookstore. Satoshi Ashagawa, he's the author. Very small book, 120 words. You can finish it in when you are traveling in metro or public transport. The way that author writes, that would give you a hint how to tell a narrative, and it would also give a talking point in your discussion if you are planning to put in I love reading. A unique book, very simple language. That's something that I've read fair recently. I ordered its next edition more days at Morasaki bookstore. So that is something I would suggest. Framing narrative is most important. Either take help of some consultant, like friend or someone whom you think you can consult, or do it on your own at early stage.
Got it. There are a few more questions from Chayanika and Shivdas. I'll get back to them. Just to keep a balance, I'll go here, where candidates, students have asked us. Uh, so Chakravarti is asking, can you tell us a bit more about the program at IIMK? I'm assuming he's talking about the program that you have
Yeah.
enrolled. So what is this about? He's asking.
So yeah, now here's wherein um, it's the it's a very, I would say, jam-packed program. It's an adrenaline rush because unlike ISB, IIMK makes you learn all concepts of a 2-year MBA into a 1-year MBA. So you'll be having classes from morning 9 a.m. that can go all the way till 10 p.m. One. So uh, discipline is something that you should start. Term zero would be all rosy. You will be welcomed into campus first 2 weeks, and that is also important. You get to enjoy the Malabar area of Kerala. Term one is where the biggest shift happens. Term one and two are fundamental subjects of MBA. So you coming from a working life wherein you had fair share of time to relax for a bit, but now you are back in a school or college-based academic setup. So that lifestyle change is something that would take time. Only suggestion is you keep yourself motivated. That goes on till term three. Right now, I am in term three and I have my examination for next week. So one thing that GMAT prep and specifically this whole giving exams, something that if you I assimilated it in term two, and I would suggest as fellow friends, is you have to let go of fear of scores. Okay, I have an exam tomorrow. What score I'll fetch? So just let go of it. You've prepared it for your whole duration of preparation. So your last minute preparation would just add 1 or 2 marks. Your holistic preparation level. So yeah, up until now that's the thing, and things are exciting. Rosy part of it, you have good campus. Every now and then, for 2 year candidates also organize fests, so you get to enjoy. And yeah, it's like work hard and enjoy harder. So I am enjoying on to the natural beauty of this campus. So yes,
Got it. It's a program of leadership where it's honing your skills to go into the next steps.
yes.
Vandit has asked, could you tell us about your interview experience with IIM or and slash or other business schools slash jobs? I think you spoke about the one where you talked about the book experience. If there's anything more interesting, maybe you could just talk about it.
So your very first question that an interviewer asks is your, I would say, bull run. You can drive narrative from that question. So, uh, if an interviewer asks you the question, tell me something about yourself, that question can be the most easy question as well and most difficult question as well. So, if you get that right, your interview is sorted. Having said that, three things I'll suggest to consider. Number one, be very beyond GMAT, you have, be aware of current affairs because business world is heavily dependent on external factors. These you learn through current affairs. And second is perseverance. There would be grinding sessions, but if you have an honest narrative, perseverance would be a natural instinct. And third, but most important thing, how you are at last question, how you are able to circle it back to the first question. So I remember that I am Coricode interview only. It was good, but then it was very grueling per se. But then last question was asked, okay, so here you are in these circumstances. So why is it so your company still is willing to keep you as a candidate if MBA is not an option? And that after a set of 2 or 3 questions where I tanked miserably, drove my narrative back. I sold my USP to them, binded in aspects. So your first opening and closure and how it forms a complete story about you as a candidate, that is important. So make sure you keep a track on that.
I hope you get your answer, Vandit. I'll move to Pallavi's question. That's an interesting question because many candidates do have career gaps. Pallavi has asked, do you have any views on how a profile with a career gap would be viewed? By that comes, I'm assuming.
Mm, If you consider it as a gap, they'll consider it as a gap. If you consider it as something that you can tell, it's something very specific to India. I have had my colleagues from global aspects. They used to take sabbatical for 1 year or 2 year just to explore. But then they have had something that they did in that period. The outcome could not be numbers, but qualitative. So in practical life as well, let's say someone took leave to manage family is a good again, if I were hypothetically was managing my family, if I took a break, I would sell it as a project management learning, that family is the best practice ground for stakeholder management, wherein uncertainty can occur at any moment in time. It all depends on how you sell. So if you consider personally it as a gap, then it's a gap. How I look into it as a coping up session or realignment, if I go into very corporate terms. So,
Got it. I think if we can show it as an upgrade button, that entire gap, it could really mean a lot instead of just showing.
yeah.
Chakravarti has asked, I have heard from one of my colleagues from one of top colleges that people of executive MBA were asked to try jobs on their own means, if possible, and placements were more focused to help 2-year program guys. Have you seen any such scenarios? Again, it's subject to your own experience.
Yeah, I'll answer it in very real context.
Yeah,
Beyond, like MBA, unfortunately now is an placement generation machine. Why was MBA initiated in India in first place? Indian Institute of Management, though I also look for career, but if you look into the history of management, we needed policymakers and administrators. That's wherein Vikram Sarabhai came with the Atira and perhaps IIM Ahmedabad. So that's wherein your value system alignment is required. And I would suggest keep it as a motivation. Learning, if you have a very good institute, you are learning from years of experience. So short term, yes, pitfalls would happen. I am like, if I be very vulnerable in front of you all, I've had a very fair career in my company. Um, a domain that I can literally, someone can ask me in midnight, I can solve the problems. So, but here I am taking an uncertainty. I don't know if the job is there, but what I do know is these learnings, what I am learning right now, uh, these are important. Now I can look into a company's financials. I mean, it's a very subjective way to look at it. You are able to understand a company's narrative by just looking at the financial statement a company uploads on the investor platform. So these are fundamental values that I believe you should look forward to, and perhaps that you should highlight in your essays as well.
correct.
Uh, bec- Fundamentals of management institutes is to train you to handle people and not to place per se. So placement is part of it. But again, either I can seek a problem or create a solution. So my way is solution. So um, that's why I'm all in the gladiator mode.
Right. So it's basically all about building upon the core skills, which will eventually let you have a job. And one need to focus on building up the skills rather than worrying always about placement. You will get placement along with the batch that you are having, whether it's IMK, ABC, whatever, wherever you go, you will pick up a top batch, you'll be placed. Just don't worry too much about
Yeah.
it. Focus more on skill building.
But one good aspect just to keep you motivated, because I feel you have a baggage onto it. So with AI tools put in place, if you read, McKinsey has now created AI that can replace a whole consultant. What value you bring in as an experienced candidate is your in-depth analysis. So not now, but when you will come out of this job market over longer period of time with
Mm.
your technical expertise that you have garnered in a pre-MBA experience and post-MBA horizontal understanding. If you are able to keep them together and keep yourselves updated, uh, finding job would not be a problem. Rather, I would say sorting job would be a problem. Which one to pick?
Lovely. I'm going to go to Snigdha's question now because it's a yes no kind of a question. So just quickly pull that up, and we are already at 8:34. So max 5 more minutes, Shrinath, and we'll kind of wrap it up. Was there a written test was there a written test too during the interview? This is Snigdha's question. Maybe you can just.
No, no,
No.
it was totally verbal call.
Okay. Going back to another question, Nandini Nikum's question, since we still have some time, meaning they have some time for the preparation and admit, are there any extra co-curriculars one can pursue now to make our applications stronger?
I would suggest you all are taking this. This is a lens through which you look at your activities. Your company has value systems that you sell in your one-on-one meetings. You can sell in narrative. I sold 3 narratives. I used to review research papers for academic conferences. That was an added skill. I used to edit the internal newsletter. I sold it as up and running. Again, that's wherein that Excel sheet would be handy. That each and every incident that you are doing, rather borrow your one-on-one discussion template that you use to take in performance reviews. Bring in a business aspect to it. So these will be your co-curriculars. Don't indulge into new skills. However, reading is something that I would suggest. If you want to mention it, do mention. But reading is a skill that would be important across exam as well and in MBA when you are expected to read 40-pager cases on daily basis. So
40-pager essays. Wow. I'm going to go to the next question. Hope you got your answer. The next question is, this is more about data insights. I'd like to know, I'll get back to this question because I see this question about the years of experience. What's your take on someone with 10 to 12 years of work in consulting or management trying to get into IIMs? I mean, have you come across any such student in your batch till now? Asked by Saket.
So, I speak of my batch. We have candidates, as I was speaking, the person who has have worked on the design of Desire. He is a person who has had around 9+ years of experience. Now, consulting, and that's wherein I believe one of the questions that was asked. So, the problem is not about executive getting the job. You have to look from the other side of the table. Why a recruiter would want me? So, up until now, the consulting market was requiring individuals who are malleable, who can be gilded into any values or ethics. And that's where in 0 to 2 was a safe spot in India. So they would hire them, train them into vertical where they want to fill in the requisition. And that's why major hirings were happening in that segment. With the market correction now, experience and MBA are now in coming into picture that okay, 0 to 5 years, how consultants view is the people who we can mold into any role that consulting would require. Above 5 years is where you become a specialist of that role. So when you are framing your resume and companies that are into consulting, so let's say someone is from banking sector, so then they see someone has worked for 5 6 years, he is considered a specialist. So he'll be provided projects on banking sector. So then your sector narrows down to the sector that you're focused. If you want to pivot into a new sector, I would suggest, and this is something that I'm personally doing, create a portfolio. It's an added activity, but create a portfolio of your work, maybe case competitions. I just want to play around marketing and product management. So I am creating my own case analysis of companies and putting it in my portfolio. So just to showcase that, okay, now I'm pivoting and this is an attempt that I've done to enter into your field. You have to show intent and jobs will be there.
Thank you. We'll take one last question, and I'd request the questions which I couldn't address today. Like Nitish, the question of Nitish was about data insights. How did you manage TPA? He had also asked about 10 years of banking experience. What is the competitive score? There are some questions
Mhm.
that I won't be able to pick up today given the paucity of time, but please just WhatsApp it to me. I'll take them ahead and I will get back with the response from Shrinath to you. Maybe we'll take one last question from Aditya Jain. You can just very briefly talk about the topic. What did you do to practice more questions on any particular topic in quants to get more confidence before the exam?
Mm. Quant, one thing, again, I had to unlearn quant. And that is very subjective thing because my job required me to work on little bit of mathematical aspects, integral calculus, and that was part and parcel of the job. So one thing that Devmitra ma'am suggested me to pick up the pace of fundamental maths was to practice 1 or 2 questions of each difficulty level before you attempt your exam, just to go into that the way you prep up your vehicle engine, I would say warm up. So that would give you an pace in the examination. So quant, I might not help you. DI, one suggestion I would give you if you have. I'm not aware the way our current tool works. If you have access of practicing the DI questions in the format paper asks it, and my time, what I did is I purchased that 5 6,000 rupee bundle of DI question bank on MBA.com. Maybe your toolkit might now have that feature of practicing the question in same pattern in the same pattern, not in the book format. Practice it in a digital pattern. Yeah, again, it's the biggest syllabus psychology, and one part of DI or quant psychology is that interface. Crack it, it's easy.
Okay, final message from Anushka. Nice to meet a Boeing engineer. Thank you so much, Srinath. And that's a message from my end also, Srinath. Thank you so much for taking out the time out of your busy schedule, knowing that you have an set of exams now coming up in a week. So thank you so much again. Thanks a lot. And thank you so much to all of you for joining back and joining on Sunday evening, listening to me and Shreenath speak, asking your questions. Thanks a lot for the questions which we couldn't pick up today. I think 3 or 4 questions. Just WhatsApp them to me. And
Yes.
I will forward them to Shreenath and I'll get back to you with the answer.
Yes. Thank you so much for bearing up with me for an hour. Rest assured, I see you all as potential leaders, and perhaps who who would never know that across 28 verticals on industry, you all will be leading them. So keep that confidence up and get a convert. I hope you all will get it.
I'm very, very, very confident. These people who are standing here today, they are so brilliant, and I can name them on my fingertips. I can see potential. I really want them to be consistent on the track and not be bothered by one day of bad prep, one day of bad accuracy. Just be there. 72 hours was his gap. I'd say keep it for 24 hours. Don't get out of that zone of prep and come out with flying colors. Thank you so much, Shina. Thank you, everyone. I hope this session added value to your learnings. Bye bye, and I'm going to see you again next
Yes.
time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.